It's late. The highway has gone quiet. A driver pulls in. The engine ticks as it cools. Above the pumps, the price glows in red and white. The same number that's been burned into the American imagination since childhood road trips. The driver steps out, inserts a card, selects a grade, and starts filling the tank. It's the most ordinary transaction in the country. It happens roughly 1 billion times a week. But what if the gasoline in that tank is not where the real money is being made? Who actually profits when you buy a gallon of gas? Why do some of these stations have convenience stores stacked floor to ceiling with snacks, energy drinks, coffee, and lottery tickets? Why are they always sitting on the busiest, most valuable corners in town? And how can a building that looks like it sells nothing but fuel actually be running several businesses under one roof at the same time, off the same 15,000 square feet of asphalt? Because once you understand what's really happening behind that glowing price sign, you may never look at a gas station the same way again. Here's the assumption almost everyone carries around without ever questioning it. Gas station sells gas. Gas station keeps the money. Simple, obvious, and incomplete. Because revenue is not profit. A station can move an enormous amount of fuel, hundreds of thousands of gallons a month in some locations, while still facing a mountain of costs standing between that number and anything the owner actually keeps. Think about what's stacked against every gallon before it even reaches the pump. The wholesale price paid to a supplier, the cost of trucking it in, federal and state fuel taxes, card processing fees, rent or mortgage on the property, payroll for the people behind the counter, equipment maintenance, insurance, utilities to keep those lights burning all night, environmental compliance for the tanks buried underground, and, for many locations, a branding or franchise fee just to fly a recognizable logo. So when that driver pays $60 to fill up, $60 does not land in anyone's pocket as profit. It's the starting point of a journey, and by the time it's finished, the amount left over can be surprisingly thin. And this is where the story gets interesting. Because for some operators, the fuel pump isn't the most profitable part of the business at all. It might just be the part that gets people through the door. Here's the first real reveal. Fuel doesn't just generate revenue. Fuel generates traffic. People need gasoline, whether the economy is booming or breaking down. That single fact hands a station something few retail businesses ever get for free. A guaranteed, repeating reason for thousands of strangers to physically show up at the same property, day after day. There's a difference between a product and a customer acquisition tool. For some operators, gasoline functions less like the main event and more like the hook, the thing that pulls a car off the highway and onto the lot. Because once that car stops moving, the business gets a second chance. The pump gets them onto the property, but what happens after they step inside? Walk through the door, and the business changes completely. Bottled water, coffee, energy drinks, chips and candy, prepared food under a heat lamp, tobacco and nicotine products where legally sold, basic groceries, windshield fluid and motor oil, bags of ice, lottery tickets where available. Margins vary wildly across all of it. Some items barely clear their own shelf space. Others can be considerably more profitable than the fuel outside. It depends entirely on the category, the supplier, and the store. What matters more is the psychology. A driver stops for gas, And then, standing at the pump for 3 or 4 idle minutes, a second thought creeps in. I need a coffee. I forgot I'm out of washer fluid. I could use something to eat before the next stop. Picture a driver who spends $50 filling the tank and then walks out having spent another $8 to $15 inside. That's a hypothetical, not a universal number, but it illustrates something real. A single visit can carry far more value than the fuel transaction alone suggests. But the convenience store is only the second layer. There's another asset here, hiding in plain sight. Look at where these stations actually sit. Major intersections, highway exits, commuter corridors. The entrance to a neighborhood everyone drives through twice a day. These are not random locations. They are some of the most fought-over parcels of commercial real estate in America. From above, the station stops looking like a few pumps under a metal canopy. It starts looking like a strategically placed piece of commercial property. Fuel, retail, and traffic stacked on top of land that was chosen with enormous care. And here's the distinction that changes everything. An operator who owns that land sits on a very different financial foundation than one who leases it. Ownership means the value of the ground itself can appreciate for decades, independent of how much gas ever gets sold. Leasing means a portion of every good month gets handed straight to a landlord. Same pumps, same customers, completely different economics underneath. Depending on the operator and the location, a modern station might combine fuel, convenience retail, prepared food, a car wash, an ATM, lottery sales, automotive products, a quick service restaurant, and even leased out retail space, all inside one property line. Not every station has all of it. Some have almost none of it. But the underlying idea is the same. One location, multiple revenue streams. The genius here isn't necessarily selling one product at an enormous markup. It can be something quieter, engineering a single location so that millions of small transactions have a reason to happen there, over and over, every single day. Here's a detail most drivers never think twice about. The customer is already there. The car is already there. The station already has the visibility. So for some operators, adding a car wash isn't a separate business decision. It's an extension of the same foot traffic they're already paying to attract. And many of these washes have shifted towards subscription models. Instead of paying per wash, a customer pays a flat monthly fee and can wash as often as they want. That single shift, from one-time purchase to recurring payment, can change the shape of a business's income. Recurring revenue tends to be steadier and more predictable than one-off sales. But not every station has a car wash, and where they exist, profitability depends on local demand, water and equipment costs, labor, maintenance, and available land. It isn't automatic money. There's an even bigger question waiting behind this one. Who actually controls the money flowing through the station? This is where the picture gets genuinely complicated and genuinely revealing. The name glowing on the sign outside does not tell you who owns the dirt underneath it. It doesn't tell you who's running the register, and it doesn't tell you who supplies the fuel. Picture a simplified, entirely fictional example. Imagine Sarah owns the property. Mike operates the day-to-day business. A national fuel brand licenses its name and supplies the gasoline, and a separate company manages part of the convenience store operation. 4 different parties, one building, one driveway, one brand sign out front. Real-world structures vary enormously. Some stations are fully owned and operated by a single person. Others involve layers of franchise agreements, supply contracts, and leases. But the lesson holds. So when you look at one gas station, you may actually be looking at several businesses quietly sharing one piece of land. There's a cost hiding inside nearly every transaction that most customers never consider: the cost of getting paid at all. Most fuel purchases today happen by card, not cash. And card transactions typically involve processing fees paid to banks and payment networks before the merchant ever sees the money. Customer, payment network, merchant, suppliers and operating expenses, and only then, whatever's left. The exact cost depends on the card, the processor, the agreement in place, and the fuel pricing itself. But the principle stands on its own. A $60 sale does not arrive in the owner's pocket as $60 of profit. It arrives having already lost a slice before it ever gets there. There's a difference between high revenue and high profit, and gasoline sits right at the center of that confusion. A station can sell millions of dollars in fuel a year while working with genuinely thin margins on every gallon, once wholesale costs, taxes, and competition are factored in. Wholesale prices shift by the day. Local competition can force a station to price aggressively just to keep cars pulling in. Taxes vary by state. Supply and demand swing with world events far outside any single owner's control. The number on the giant sign tells you what the customer pays. It doesn't tell you what the business keeps. Picture two stations selling the exact same brand of gasoline at the exact same posted price. Station A sits on a quiet side street, low traffic, high rent, a trickle of customers. Station B sits on a major intersection, heavy traffic, strong visibility, a convenience store, a car wash, hot food, and an operator who owns the land outright. The product is identical. The economics are not even close. Business isn't only about what you sell. Sometimes it's about where you sell it. Now the documentary shifts forward. What happens when the fuel people buy starts to change? Electric vehicles are spreading unevenly at different speeds in different regions, shaped by infrastructure, climate, and cost. Compressed natural gas and other alternative fuels are carving out their own niches. Consumer habits are shifting, slowly, market by market. This isn't the story of gasoline vanishing overnight. Energy transitions in America have historically taken decades, not years, and they move differently from state to state. But there's a lesson buried in the shift. An EV driver waiting 20 or 30 minutes for a charge isn't standing at a pump for 90 seconds anymore. They're sitting there, with time on their hands and a convenience store right next to them. The strongest operators may increasingly think of themselves not simply as fuel sellers, but as owners and operators of high-traffic, high-visibility places where people happen to pause. Let's go back to where we started. The same driver, the same glowing sign, the same quiet parking lot at midnight. But look at it again. The fuel pump, the convenience store, the coffee machine humming behind the counter, the car wash around back, the land underneath it all, the traffic pulling in from every direction, the card reader quietly taking its cut, the brand on the sign, and everyone standing behind it. The gas station isn't necessarily a business built around one product. At its most sophisticated, it's a system designed to turn traffic into transactions. And that may be the real reason these ordinary-looking properties can become extraordinarily valuable. Next time you stop for gas, don't just look at the price on the sign. Look around. Ask yourself, how many businesses are actually operating inside this one location? Because the biggest money-making machine may not be the pump in front of you. It may be everything happening after you arrive. If you want us to break down another everyday business that quietly makes money in ways most people never notice, comment the business below and subscribe. Because the next time you walk into an ordinary place, we're going to show you the extraordinary business hiding behind it.